I never thought I'd find myself standing outside a wedding hall, in full makeup and heels, with tears streaming down my face, all because of my dad. But that's exactly where I ended up. All because I said no. A few months before my sister's wedding, things were pretty normal. We weren't super close, but we were okay. I even helped her plan parts of her wedding. She was marrying this guy from a wealthy family. Big wedding, more than 200 guests, and a fancy venue booked months in advance. I genuinely felt happy for her. I even hosted her bridal shower, paid for the cake, and helped her choose her dress. Then, out of the blue, my dad called and asked if I could come over for a quick chat. I thought it was going to be about wedding logistics or something, but I was wrong. He had this serious look on his face, like he was about to drop some life-altering news. And in a way, he did. "Your sister and her fiancé are having a bit of trouble finding a house," he said. "You've got that nice big place all to yourself. Maybe you could gift it to them as a wedding present." I stared at him. Was he serious? "Dad," I said, slowly, trying not to laugh, "that's a $450,000 house. I bought it with my own money. It took me years of saving. That's not a gift, that's my life." He didn't budge. "You don't need all that space. And your sister is starting a new chapter. It would mean a lot if you supported her." Supported her? I'd been supporting her emotionally and even financially in little ways for years. But this was too much. "I'm sorry, but no," I said firmly. "I can help in other ways, but I'm not giving away my house." He got up and walked away without saying anything else. I could feel the tension in the air. Over the next few days, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. My stepmom texted me about how disappointed they were. My aunt called me selfish. My sister didn't speak to me for 2 weeks, and when she finally did, it was to send a message that said, "I always thought we were close. But I guess a house means more to you than your sister's happiness." I cried that night. A big part of me wanted to cave in, just to make it all stop. But then I reminded myself, that house wasn't a luxury. It was the result of years of hard work, skipped vacations, side gigs, and living below my means. I had worked 2 jobs at one point. That house was more than walls and windows. It was my safety, my proof that I could stand on my own. I tried to make peace. I offered to help them search for homes. I even said I could lend them some money toward a down payment. But no. Apparently, if I wasn't giving everything, I was giving nothing. Still, I kept my cool. I showed up to the rehearsal dinner. I smiled. I clapped. I brought a thoughtful gift. I didn't want drama. I thought maybe things would be okay. But I had no idea what was coming on the actual wedding day. The pressure didn't just build, it came at me like waves crashing over a sinking boat. After my dad's ridiculous request, I thought the worst part was over. But it was just getting started. Every single day felt like I was being cornered. One cousin called me and said, "Honestly, if I had a house like yours, I wouldn't think twice. It's family." Even my mom's old friend, who I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged me on Facebook to say, "You only get one sister. Think about what kind of legacy you're leaving." Legacy? Was giving away everything I worked for the only way to prove I loved my family? I had no partner, no kids. That house was all I had. I tried to ignore it. I focused on work, stayed busy, but even at the office, I felt the stress sinking in. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I was making too big a deal out of it. Then I remembered something. My dad never asked her to give up anything for me. Not once. When I struggled to pay for college, I figured it out on my own. When I moved to a new city with nothing but a suitcase, I never once asked for help. But now that she wanted something, it was like the whole family turned into her personal army. I started having nightmares about losing my home. I'd wake up sweating, heart racing. I'd double-check that my doors were locked. That's how bad the stress got. Still, I showed up. The day of the wedding came, and I wore the dress my sister picked for me. I smiled for photos. I made small talk. But the hurt sat just under the surface. I brought a gift too. A framed photo of us as kids with a note I spent hours writing. It talked about growing up together, about her future, about love. I meant every word. The ceremony was beautiful. Everyone cried during their vows. And I thought maybe, just maybe, things would calm down now that the wedding was here. But then came the reception, and my father's speech. He grabbed the microphone. At first, he said all the normal things, how proud he was, how beautiful she looked, how the groom was like a son to him. And then his tone changed. He looked right at me. Some people talk about love, about family, but when it's time to show it, they hide behind excuses. I froze. The room fell silent. People looked confused. Then his voice got louder. My daughter has a beautiful house, all to herself. But when her sister needed her, she said no. She chose property over people. Not exactly what I raised her to be. And then he said it. If you can't support your family, maybe you don't belong in it. That was my cue. I stood up and walked out of the wedding hall. No one stopped me. No one followed me. Not even my sister. I got in my car and drove home, to the house everyone wanted me to give up, and cried alone in the place I fought so hard to own. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, fully dressed, makeup smeared, heart still pounding from what happened. My phone buzzed non-stop. Messages, missed calls, voicemails. But I didn't open a single one. Not even my sister's. By morning, the exhaustion hit like a brick wall. But I wasn't just tired, I was numb. The kind of numb that happens when something inside you breaks, and you're not sure it'll ever fully heal. I finally opened my phone and scanned through the messages. Most were from family. I'm disappointed in you. You ruined her big day. You couldn't just do one kind thing. One from my stepmom stung the most. No one wants your house now. We just wanted your heart, but clearly, it's locked behind a mortgage. Wow. Not one message asked if I was okay. Not one person said, that was uncalled for, or are you holding up? It was like I had been kicked out of the family entirely, for protecting the one thing that gave me security. A few days passed, and I didn't hear anything from my dad. The silence hurt more than the words he said at the reception. I thought maybe my sister would reach out. Maybe she'd apologize for not stopping him. For not defending me. For sitting there in her white dress while our father humiliated me in front of hundreds. But she didn't. Not even a text. I avoided social media. I knew pictures from the wedding would be everywhere. I couldn't handle seeing their happy smiles knowing how I had been treated like a stranger. Then, about a week later, I got a letter. An actual letter, mailed to my home. It was from my dad. It was short. No greeting. No warmth. Just 3 sentences. This family thrives on loyalty. You showed where yours lies. Don't expect to be included in future gatherings. I stared at the paper until my eyes blurred. My hands trembled. I wasn't just insulted. I was exiled. I sat on my porch that evening, watching the sunset pour golden light over the lawn I'd worked so hard to care for. The house behind me was still. Quiet. Mine. And yet, I felt like I'd lost everything. How could my own father erase me over a house? The following days were a blur. I went to work, came home, ate alone, and kept my phone on silent. Friends started to notice something was off. One of my closest friends, Jamie, came over unannounced with takeout and wine. She walked in, took one look at me, and said, "Okay, talk." I hadn't told her everything before. I was embarrassed. But that night, I broke down. I told her everything, my dad's request, the pressure, the speech, the letter. By the time I finished, I was shaking. Jamie didn't say anything right away. She just hugged me, tight. Then she said something I didn't realize I needed to hear. You are not selfish. They are. And honestly, that house? You earned every inch of it. No one gets to shame you for keeping it. I cried harder than I had in years. That night reminded me that I wasn't completely alone. I still had people in my corner. Maybe not the ones I expected. Maybe not blood. But real family is more than DNA. I decided I needed boundaries. Strong ones. I blocked my stepmom, my aunt, a few cousins. I muted the rest. I didn't want hate to become a constant visitor in my life. But despite all that, one person kept lingering in my mind. My sister. She didn't speak at the wedding. Didn't stop the speech. Didn't defend me. But she also didn't send hate. She didn't send anything at all. And that silence haunted me. I didn't know if she was angry, ashamed, or just indifferent. But I knew one thing, I couldn't keep waiting for an apology that might never come. So I made a decision. I was done chasing people who treated my worth like a bargaining chip. My house wasn't up for negotiation. And neither was my dignity. I didn't leave the house for a week. I called in sick to work. I turned off my phone. I ignored the knocks on my door. I just needed to breathe. To feel safe. To remind myself that I hadn't done anything wrong. But it was hard. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my dad's face. I heard those words again, maybe you don't belong in this family. I felt like I'd been erased from my own bloodline. All for protecting something I built with my own hands. After a week, I turned my phone back on. There were messages, lots of them. Some were cold. You really embarrassed us. You couldn't just give her this one thing. Some were guilt-trippy. She cried after you left. Are you proud of that? You ruined her special day. And a few, just a few, were kind. One of my cousins sent, I wouldn't have given up my house either. Don't let them make you feel crazy. But the damage was done. I could feel it in my gut. I wasn't welcome anymore. Then came the family group chat. I'd been in it for years. It's where we shared birthday pictures, holiday plans, dumb memes. I hadn't said anything in days. Just watched as they posted photos from the wedding, laughing, tagging each other, pretending like nothing happened. Then I saw it. I was removed. No message. No warning. Just gone. I stared at the screen for a long time. It felt like someone punched me in the chest. That group wasn't just texts, it was connection. Belonging. And now it was like I didn't exist. A few hours later, I got a message from my dad. It just said, "This could have all been avoided if you'd done the right thing." I didn't reply. What do you even say to that? I sat in my kitchen, in silence, for what felt like hours. I looked around at my house, the walls I painted, the floor I scrubbed, the cozy reading corner I built myself. I touched the edges of the table where I had my morning coffee every day. And I whispered to myself, I did the right thing for me. The next weekend, my sister posted honeymoon photos. Beaches. Cocktails. Sunset kisses. She looked happy. He looked rich. And for some reason, that made me feel even worse. I wasn't jealous. I was just hollow. Like I'd been cut out, not because I hurt someone, but because I refused to be used. A few days later, I ran into my stepmom at the grocery store. She looked at me, gave a tight smile, and said, "I hope you're proud. You're the talk of the whole family." Then she walked away without even looking back. And I stood there in the cereal aisle, blinking back tears, wondering how something so good, my home, my hard work, had become the reason everyone hated me. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to send, just to clear my head. It said, "I will not apologize for protecting what's mine. I love my family, but I will not love them at the cost of my own peace. If being in this family means being stepped on, then maybe I don't belong in it after all. And maybe that's okay." I folded the letter and placed it in my nightstand. I wasn't ready to move on. But I was starting to realize, I didn't need to carry their shame. They could talk. They could blame. They could paint me as the villain. But deep down, I knew the truth. And one day, they'd have to live with how they treated me. Weeks turned into months. The silence from my family was loud. No calls. No messages. Not even a birthday text. At first, it crushed me. Every time a holiday came around, I hoped someone would reach out. Just a simple "how are you?" or "let's talk." But nothing ever came. I kept living my life. I still went to work, still paid my bills, still came home to my quiet house. But that feeling, that ache in my chest, stayed for a long time. I saw them online sometimes. My sister posting selfies with our dad, smiling like everything was perfect. My aunt commenting, "So proud of you, sweetheart. You deserve everything." I wanted to scream. Did no one see how unfair they had been? Did no one care? But over time, that scream inside me got quieter. I started talking to a therapist. She helped me see that boundaries aren't cruel, they're necessary. She told me it was okay to say no, even to family. Especially to family, if they're the ones crossing the line. She asked me one question that changed everything. If you had given them that house, would you be happy today? And I knew the answer. I would have been bitter. I would have felt used. And worst of all, I would have betrayed myself. One evening, a package showed up at my door. No note, just a small box. Inside was a photo frame, It was the same one I had gifted my sister at the wedding, the one with the childhood picture and handwritten message. But the photo was gone. The frame was empty. My hands shook as I held it. It was a message. Clear as day. They didn't just reject my gift. They rejected me. That night, I made a decision. I blocked every number that had sent me guilt-tripping messages. I left the few family group chats I was still in. I deleted the bookmarks to their social media pages. And I removed the empty frame from my shelf. I wasn't doing it to be cold. I was doing it to heal. Because I finally realized something: family doesn't get to treat you like a doormat just because you share blood. The people who love you, really love you, don't demand your home, your savings, or your silence. They accept your boundaries. They respect your voice. I started rebuilding my life without them. I made new friends. Real friends. People who didn't see me as a walking wallet or a selfish sister. I joined a local book club. I traveled to places I had only dreamed of: Italy, Morocco, and Japan. I even adopted a dog, a goofy golden retriever who greets me like I'm the most important person in the world every time I walk through the door. And slowly, the pain started to fade. One day, while walking through my neighborhood, I passed a house that looked just like mine. Same build, same porch, same paint color. There was a for sale sign out front. Listed at $640,000. That's when it hit me. My $450,000 house, the one they said I didn't need, was now worth so much more. I had made a smart, life-changing investment. And they had tried to take it from me like it was nothing. I stopped in my tracks, looked at my reflection in the window of that house, and smiled. I chose myself. I chose peace over pressure. I chose dignity over drama. And even though I lost some people, I found someone better, me. I don't know if my family will ever come around. Maybe one day, my sister will knock on my door with tears in her eyes. Maybe my dad will send a letter saying he's sorry. Or maybe they won't. But either way, I'll be okay. Because I still have the one thing they tried to take from me, and it's not just the house. It's my voice. My worth. My freedom. And I'm never giving that up for anyone. Not even family. And that's my story. It still hurts sometimes, knowing the people I loved the most didn't stand by me. But choosing peace over pleasing others was the best decision I ever made. Because no one, not even family, should have the power to make you feel small for protecting what you've worked so hard for. Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Have you ever had to choose yourself, even when it meant losing people you love? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss more real-life stories like this one. Thanks for listening, and remember, your boundaries are valid, and your voice matters. See you in the next one.